Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about artificial intelligence in the video sector. We'll take a look at AI-driven content creation, what's happening now, and what we can expect in the future. To discuss that, I'm joined by Victor Riparbelli, Chief Executive Officer of Synthesia. Victor, very good to have you with us today.
Thanks for inviting me, James. Excited to be here.
So AI video content creation, it feels like we're sort of in this brave new world, video avatars talking with us. Let's step back. I know that Synthesia is an AI video creation platform. Can you give us an overview of the technology and how it works?
Yeah, sure. So Synthesia is the world's largest platform for AI video generation today. And what that means is essentially that we help our customers make awesome video content without the need for any physical recording process. So that means no cameras, no actors, no studios, none of all the things that generally make video production a lot more difficult than making a PowerPoint slide, for example. The way it works is that you go to a website, you select one of our stock avatars, which is real actors who are basically paid for every video you generate with them. And then you simply just type out your script. So kind of like you're a director of a film or something like that. You just type it out. We have I think of it as like a sort of a Canva or PowerPoint style editor around it. So if you want to add in some screen recordings, logos, text, images, all those things you have in normal videos, you can also add those. Then you hit generate, you wait a few minutes, and then we serve you back a video of your chosen actor reading out your script to the screen. That's like the simplest way of explaining it. Today, it's very focused on what I call kind of business content. So think of it a lot as training, learning, sales, marketing content, very much like talking head style of video. And I think a good analogy here is sort of like things you would make a PowerPoint about are usually great types of content for working with on the Synthesia platform. On a 5-10 year horizon, our goal as a company is to enable anyone to be able to make a Hollywood film on their laptop without the need for anything else than just their imagination and a Synthesia login. And while it does to some extent seem far away, I think most of the technologies are there, the building blocks are there. It's a matter of connecting them and of course improving upon them. And I'm very excited for us to sort of move into a world where everyone can make video content without being a professional. And I think they'll help all of us communicate much better than we do today.
That's really interesting. Obviously, no doubt there's a market for that. Is there also scenarios in which someone would interact with a video avatar in real time, or is it only reading text and it's set text and that's what they can do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're very early in AI generated content. You know, we've been working on this for 5 years, and I think the last year or so has really been the breakthrough year. We've seen AI generated text, AI generated images, AI generated video, really kind of moving from being cool stuff that people did in a research lab to something that businesses use every single day, which is very exciting. But right now, I think we're at the stage where normal video and AI video sort of looks similar. You know, it's a video you play from A to B, and it's still the sort of broadcasting methodology. But what's going to happen in the coming years is that AI video, AI generated content is going to become its own media format that's going to be different from the images and films that we know of today, right? And I'll give you a little bit of an analogy to maybe help you picture like exactly how I think about this.
Sure.
The first websites, they looked like a newspaper on a screen because
Right.
that was kind of what people could imagine, right? The first films were people using a camera to record theater plays, because what else would you record?
Right.
Obviously, from there on, we went to websites which have links and video and audio and interactive. It's very different than reading a newspaper, and the same thing with films, right? A theater play and a movie today is two very different things. And that's because they enabled via technology that you could do new things. I think we're going to see the same here. We're going to see much more personalized content. We're going to see interactive content where, let's say, you're taking a training, a learning course online. There'll be some embedded intelligence in that video. You interact with it. Maybe it changes depending on how well you understand the material. It can maybe skip some sections. It can explain some things even better than it did before. It's always hard to reason about exactly how this is going to look, but I'm very, very convinced that AI video and AI content will become its own thing. And I think the key headline for this is that we're going to move away from broadcasting, which is that sort of you create a video which everyone then watches, to much more personalized and contextualized experiences. And I think that's gonna change how the entire internet works and how we interact with media in a very exciting way.
Hmm. What about the idea, and obviously I know you must be aware of ChatGPT. I mean, it's been a big milestone that came out recently, and everyone's been,
Yeah.
using it to create content. People, I mean, the interesting thing about ChatGPT, in my view, I mean, just the fact of it is that it's generative, right? So you can ask it to write a poem, it will write a poem for you. Where something like Alexa can actually retrieve information, ChatGPT will actually, create something. So it's really a milestone in that sense. What about the idea of combining ChatGPT with Synthesia?
We've been using GPT for the last 2 years. So if you go to our TikTok channels, you'll see lots of GPT generated. Like right now, we have AI Santa Claus who on our TikTok live stream is reading out a GPT generated Christmas stories. That's a bit more of a fun thing.
Uh-huh.
But we also use it internally to create video content, and we're also building an integration into the product so that if you want to create a video about fly fishing, you can come into Synthesia, you just type out 5-part course about fly fishing, and we'll then generate sort of the entire video script and all the sort of video slides that matches that. And then you as the user can just go in, and you'll probably still want to edit whatever we sort of generate for you, but it'll be so much faster than you sitting from scratch, writing the script, putting in all the visuals, right? And I think it's going to be a big theme with us and with other creation tools, that we're going to move from sort of in a world where we as the human sort of come up with everything from a blank screen, sort of, to being much more about editing content, right? So you ask GPT and Synthesia to like, hey, build me a video about this particular thing. And then instead of, you sitting and doing it from scratch, you'll just edit the last 20% to make sure it sort of fits the narrative and the story that you're telling. So I think this embedded intelligence is going to be something we'll see definitely in Synthesia coming within a couple of months, but also in many other applications that all of us use every day.
What if I wanted to talk with one of your video avatars in real time and just have a conversation about technology or whatever? So the video avatar we will, in other words, could I interview a robot, so to speak, with a Chat GPT feed going into Synthesia?
Yeah, we actually built that. We had a kind of a hackathon a few weekends ago. We built a full real-time Synthesia version connected to GPT-3. We haven't released the video yet, but we have a quite funny one of our CTO, John, interviewing one of our AI avatars as a candidate for a research engineer position. And it works amazingly well. The latency is less than 1,500 milliseconds. So it does feel like a real conversation. And I definitely think this will be a thing of the future. It's not something that we are planning to release as a product in the near-term future, but 100% this will be part of the future of AI video and AI content.
Interesting. Are there specific examples of how companies are using AI video now? You've talked about them a little bit, but it'd be nice to see, real world examples. How are companies really using this now?
So I think an overarching theme really is that we're moving from, we're moving into a world where people don't really want to read; they want to watch and listen to their content, right? We're also recording this as a Zoom webinar because people want to watch and listen, right? They don't want to read a long blog post about something. So that's great, but for big corporations, which is a lot of what we work with, it poses a huge problem, right? Because producing video and audio at scale is incredibly difficult and incredibly time consuming.
Right.
So what we actually help these companies do is, instead of producing a lot of text and slide content, they can now produce video content. And they see it as, they use Synthesia to replace the text and slides that they have. So let's say you're a big fast food company, for example, right?
Right.
And you're onboarding, millions of people every single year. You have to teach them how to operate a deep fryer, how to handle an angry customer, all of these different things. A year ago, they would send you 28 pages of PDF documents that you would have to sit down and read. And maybe that'd be like a 5-minute video to just like set the stage before, right? And then they'd hope that you kind of ingest that and understand it, which of course, especially in a frontline worker scenario, you're not going to remember that much of it. Now what they can do is they can create video content. And the big unlock, right, is that the same person who used to create those PDF documents and slides, they can just use Synthesia. They don't have to go to a video production department and get a budget and involve 5 other people in making that video content. They can just do almost with the same workflow they had before. They can now produce video content. This goes, in this scenario, it goes for, SaaS companies, tech companies we work with who want to build better onboarding programs for their customers where they can make that into video content, which is always on brand. You can always go back and edit it. You're not relying on someone from your customer success team who creates 35 great videos and then leave the company a year after, and all of a sudden, what do we do with these 35 videos? It's an employee who doesn't work here anymore. We can't create, there's all these
Right.
problems of working with like the normal way of producing video and
Sure.
audio for that matter that we solve with this. So I'd say it's a lot of it's a lot of like, less exciting use cases to some extent.
Right.
But I think it matches very well with the technology is today, right? I think you have to be honest about not just our tech, but a lot of these AI tools. There's still a lot of way to go. In our case, adding emotions, for example, to the avatars, making them more expressive. That's going to be a big part in, enabling people to create like real entertainment content that'll make you laugh, for example, right? That's not really where we are yet, but it's
Right.
great in its current state as being, for instructional content, for example. So I think what we'll see over the next years is that as the technology gets better, more and more use cases gets unlocked, which is really exciting.
It seems like one of the real challenges would be adding emotion to the avatars. We need that ultimately. If we're going to be completely convinced by a speaker, we need that speaker to have some emotions. But it seems like that would be quite challenging. You get into some nuances of facial expressions. Let's go into that a little bit. If you talk about the challenges of AI video, whether in production or in the audience response, I mean, what's a challenge for AI video, and what is still holding it back?
Yeah, well, I think that where we are right now is that it works really well for a specific set of use cases, right? So I kind of talked about a little bit about that before, but
Right.
instructional, educational content, it's not yet, at a point where it can make you feel something, right, in an emotional way, like an advertisement would have to, for example. The challenges here are that obviously this technology is very new and it's extremely hard to do. You're basically trying to teach a computer how to replicate real video of someone, right? But we're making amazing progress, and next year we'll see some huge improvements in what the avatars can do. We've just added in micro gestures to the avatars, so now our avatars can nod their heads, they can blink, they can frown, they can do these like different sort of actions. And next year it's going to be even more functionality added to make them come alive even more. The next like real big sort of step change will be moving to avatars that can, like dance around, have a conversation together, be in a room. Whereas today it's this like talking head style of video. And I mean, just to maybe, put into context how big these challenges are, like, we've just spent like upwards of $5 million on building a capture stage in London, 100 cameras in a green screen room. We're going to capture thousands of people next year, which is going to provide us with a data set of how humans move, how humans look when they do different things, how does our emotions change when we speak, not just from a single camera, but from 100 cameras, right? That's not because we want to capture avatars with 100 cameras, but we need that data to be able to infer from just a video of you and create an avatar of you that is very expressive. So I think, what we definitely see in AI is that it's very much driven by these step changes. It's not like month by month, it just gets like better and better. It's generally like a big step change happens and whoa, now it's like 3-5x better, right? Another step change happens. And that's what we've seen continuously, through the 5 years of building Synthesia, that there's these sort of technological step changes that really impacts what you can do with it. So I think that's on the technical side. On the audience side, it's really fascinating to see this play out, right? Because, we had people 3 years ago telling us like, but people would not want to watch videos created by AI and, all things. And all right, that might be right in the future. Like, I think we will definitely look differently at a movie that's generated completely with AI versus one recorded with whoever your favorite Hollywood actors are. And I think that's fine. I think they'll live side by side. But actually what we've found so far is surprisingly that not a lot of people have any problem watching AI videos. And it all comes back to, what are you comparing it with? What is the alternative, right? If the alternative is watching a super well-produced Netflix quality training video that corporate has spent, like $300,000 in making, they'll definitely pick that, and they don't want to watch the AI video, right?
Sure.
But if the alternative is to read 28 pages of PDF documents, that you then have to remember and take a quiz, everyone will pick the AI video, even if it's not 100% as good as a real video, right? And I think that's what a lot of people miss when they think about how this stuff will be perceived, is that it's most of the successful use cases today, I would argue, target inherently a new market. It's not necessarily, like, for, image generation, a lot of people got, but that'll kill Shutterstock, right? And maybe it will one day, it'll definitely impact them to some extent. But actually what I think these things do is they open up new markets, right? People who couldn't afford Shutterstock or didn't use Shutterstock before, all of a sudden now they can do something with it. And it's a bit the same we're seeing here. So I think it's not always as easy as to say, will people want to watch this content? Because often the alternative is not doing anything at all. Or in our case, it's like reading long pages of text, right? Which nobody
Right.
wants to do.
Sure. Well, yeah, no doubt, no doubt about it. It is a comparison market. I mean, I think certainly many workers faced with a 28-page PDF versus watching the video, I think it'd be no contest. So the market there in terms of companies and training, no doubt. We look ahead, say, a few years, several years out, the future of AI video. You've talked about a little bit the idea of someone making a complete movie on their laptop. I mean, that's pretty wild. What do you foresee in the years ahead? Not with current technology, but imagine how technology might imagine what might move ahead. What do you see as the future of AI video?
I think that there is some useful sort of anchors in terms of like imagining what the future will look like, right? So I'll give you one example is, and I produce music in my free time, so that's something I think a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I can open my MacBook and I can sit on a plane on my way to New York and I can synthesize and control a 65-piece orchestra, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can make any sound, I can make any vocal more or less that I can think of just by typing on my laptop, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be completely inconceivable like 20 years ago, right?
Right.
That'd be an absolutely crazy idea, right? Like you need a piano, you need a guitar, you need to have a real recording studio, you need all of these different things, right? Today, you don't need that because we've managed to compress the entire production process into something that fits inside of a computer. And that's because we can synthesize sounds and effects, right? And that has changed the landscape of music completely, right? 20, 30 years ago, you needed to be in the right city, you needed to know the right people, and then you would have a shot at maybe, releasing a record at some point. What has happened the last 20 years is that everyone, bedroom producers, they can just sit at home, they can record whatever they do, they can generate everything on their computer, right? They can share it on YouTube, and all of a sudden it's more of a competition of who makes the best music as opposed to who do you know and all the traditional gatekeepers that exist.
Mm-hmm.
But in film production, that's not really the case yet, right? Because it's so expensive to produce film. You still have all the traditional gatekeeping. There's like the dollars you would need, for example. There's where in the world are you? There is knowing the right people, right? There's being on trend. There's all these different things you kind of have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we will move into a world where just like you can produce music on a laptop, you can produce Hollywood films, right? And it sounds crazy, but I mean, Hollywood already does this, right? Most of the things you watch in the cinema is produced in a green screen stage in a warehouse somewhere, even if it doesn't look like it. It's just a matter of taking those technologies and compressing them down into something that fits into a computer. Just like the first synthesizers, they filled an entire room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'll have a huge impact on the business of film and entertainment in general.
Mm-hmm.
And from a technical perspective, it'll be something you can do on a computer. But what I find even more exciting than that is that it'll be something that everyone can do. It'll not be something where like, okay, if you're a visual effects artist from Hollywood, you can now be more productive. The systems we're going to be building is going to be you type out 2 people are standing in a wooden cabin. There's a red couch in the background. Character A says to character B, whatever, character B responds this, a dog walks into the scene. And that's what you as a user is going to type. Then the software is going to come up with a scene that sort of looks like that. And then you can go and say, change the dog from a Labrador to a Golden Retriever, or, change the appearance of something like that. So it'll be this way of creation where it's not about your technical ability. You are more kind of directing, right? Like a director would do on a set. They would say, James, can you do that line again, but make it a bit more funny or upbeat, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know this sounds like a bit, like maybe a bit, out there, but if you look at how Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, some of these image generation tools that out there today work, if you try and interact with ChatGPT, like the building blocks are there, right? It's not as crazy as it sounds. And I think that in the next 5 years, we'll see significant progress towards making this a reality. In the beginning, it probably won't be able to, do 2 people are hanging off a helicopter while flying through the jungle and shooting the bad guys. It'll probably be contained more to like 2 people sitting in a studio, or like it'll be a bit more simple in the beginning, but it'll eventually sort of get there. And I think that will be a huge democratization lever, right? Just like blogging made everyone into a journalist, I think these technologies will increasingly make everyone into a content producer.
Fascinating. It's really the democratization of content creation, which has been going on for a few decades, as you say. I mean, the
Yeah.
music has been really democratized with MIDI technologies and synthesizers, and certainly, blogging, the internet itself. So this is going to be a super interesting sector to watch. Victor, fascinating talking with you. Thanks for sharing your insights today. I've learned a ton. I hope you come back and talk with us again sometime. Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks, James, for inviting me.